amount of money chasing properties in Los Angeles just continues to stagger. We've done a little bit of business out there over the years. It's just been incredible of what you think. If you take the maximum price that you would ever pay under any condition in general for a piece of property, and then round that up and then add 10% to it, and then wad that up and add some more, and then hold your nose and say, if we absolutely had to, we could pay this, and then add 10%, you're still getting outbid almost all the time.
Welcome to this week's episode of Real Estate Anonymous. We're looking forward to previewing a very interesting deal in Glendora, California. 48 residential units and 30 small bay commercial units in a very funky Quentin Tarantino-esque setting. I think there's a lot of interesting dynamics about this opportunity. First, you can do movie studios there, which in LA is a big driver. I'm not sure we're buyers on this, but we look forward to unpacking in more detail with the group. Hope you enjoy.
Good morning. We're back again. Elliott White, Brett Moss, Eric Weatherholtz at your service. Today, we're going to be getting into something funky in California. It looks like it's one of those like two-story retail centers with the glass curtain wall that you got maybe some offices upstairs and some residential. And there's definitely going to be, I would assume, probably a massage parlor, tarot card reading, tax services, a daycare for feral children. I don't know what the tenant mix is going to be, but it's going to be something like that. But before we get into the Royal Palms, I thought we would go around the horn here. Eric, what is new with you, my friend?
Got back last night from Big D, Dallas, Texas. I love everything about Dallas. The one thing that I've noticed that I'm surprised has not spread, but Texas has a breakfast tacos are kind of an institution. It's expected. It's routine. You know, in the Southeast, you might have a biscuit sandwich or something like that. New York, you can get a BEC, bacon, egg, and cheese, kind of on a bun. You know, there's a bit in Southern California of a breakfast taco, but really, I think it's it's one of the, you know, people talk about the growth of Texas and Dallas and what's going on there. Goldman Sachs moving there. I mean, everything's going on. I think it might be an underlying factor is this breakfast taco thing.
The breakfast taco is the best breakfast in the country. Agreed. You can immediately rule out the Midwest. Nothing in the Midwest is edible. But if you look on the coast,
gravy and curds or something.
Yeah. Now, a hard pass on that weird ass fucking German food. Like, no, thank you. Yeah.
Deep dish pizza also sucks.
Like, yeah, you can't feed that shit to prisoners. But the breakfast taco is incredible. And I had a property manager, and she was from San Antonio, but she was working in Austin. And I was going to get some tacos around the corner. And I said, where are you going? Or she asked me where I was going for lunch. I said, I'm going to get some tacos. And she said, you got to go to San Antonio to get real tacos. She goes, they got fake ass tacos here. I said, what do you mean? She goes, any Mexican in Austin is a fake ass Mexican. They got the real Mexicans in San Antonio. That's where the tacos are. There was like such a local, like we think, oh, the breakfast tacos in Texas are great, but it gets so granular down there that it's like the pride of the Austin taco scene versus San Antonio versus Dallas versus whatever. But I agree with you, man.
Texas has a great publication called Texas Monthly. It's kind of a lifestyle magazine. It's really well done. And I'm dying to meet this guy. I've reached out to him online. We'll see what comes from it. His name's Jose Relat, but he is their designated taco reporter. So this cat's job is traveling around the state, eats tacos, and does a kind of monthly column on it.
Can we get him on this podcast?
I think that needs to happen.
Right.
Holy sweet mother of God.
So how would the longevity of your career go if you were a food reporter? Like,
how did you end up in that job?
And you've gone from like a size 34 to like a size 40. You're like, I'm done, man. Like, I've gone through 3 different
Once those diabetes fully set in. Yeah.
My doctor told me I had to stop.
Oh my God. Brett, you're not kidding. Texas Monthly. Texas Monthly, Jose Relat is the Texas Monthly's taco editor, writing about tacos and Mexican food.
See,
that's a great job.
Yeah.
You wander
also
around the
means
state.
you've got a great state. If that's
Right.
something that's being held up, you're not getting that in Iowa. Look up Iowa and look up Texas Reporter. You're not seeing that. Ohio, you're not seeing it.
And that's how big Texas is. And that's how many different parts of Texas there are. Because if you had a job as the taco reporter in Kansas, your job would last like a fucking week. You'd be like, well, we're going to the 2 taco places. You'd be a contract gig.
Yeah, you got nothing.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's part of the growth story of Texas. Nobody talks about it.
Well, and I just think for all the, kind of kids that may be listening, maybe there's no kids listening, think about how great it would be how much would you love your job if you showed up every day to work and had to eat tacos and report on it? That sounds like a job I could get behind.
Oh my God. Boys, there's an article here. Want your home to smell like your favorite taqueria? This corn-scented incense is for you. There's a restaurant in Austin that has created a taco incense. We're getting way off to, but if you know what? It's actually a great segue. If you think about weird ass retail concepts, we're going to talk about Royal Palms today, which is in Glendora, California. And if you can't see it, and Brett will pull it up on the screen, but if you're listening on Spotify or, heaven forbid, you have some old timey radio and you had to tune to the station to find us. The challenge with these kinds of things is to really visualize what's going on. So you've driven by one of these before. You are on the side of the road and you look to your right, you're stuck in your parents' car, you're in the way back in the station wagon, and you see this 2-story thing, and there's lots of blinds and drapes and glass, and it's definitely built in the 50s or 60s. And on the first floor is a smattering of odd retail. And on the second floor, you don't really know what's going on up there. Sometimes it's offices, sometimes it's, some kind of very dicey massage parlor, sometimes it's residential, sometimes it's all of those things. And so we have found one that we're going to talk about. It's a pretty interesting thing. And Eric, I'm glad you got your background and home improvements done for this episode, because I'm keenly interested in your view on who the tenants are, and I actually think who the owner is going to end up being.
I think, you can't fully appreciate this without seeing it, but it to me, it strikes me as like it could be a backdrop for a Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, for sure.
Great call.
Movie.
Yeah.
It's got on the front, it's sort of the mullet of real estate too, because you got this business stuff on the front out on the street. And then behind it, you've got the party. There's a swimming pool. So there's 3 buildings, 3 long, narrow buildings parallel with the busy Los Angeles road. And the first one is commercial, 2-story commercial, ground floor with an overhanging second floor where it does feel there's some shady stuff that could be happening. And then behind it, 2 long, simple buildings of apartments that have the, kind of like the motel style with the outdoor walkway where you walk by everybody's window. And then somehow between the 2 buildings, they slid in a swimming pool.
So in the Quentin Tarantino movie, somebody's getting thrown from the second floor walkway into the pool, right? After being filmed. Right.
Yeah.
That pool only gets sunlight for about 31 minutes a day. It's like jammed in between these 2 buildings.
This would be, I don't think they ever showed it, but the Harvey Keitel character in Pulp Fiction, The Wolf,
Sure.
I think he would have an apartment here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
definitely.
fair.
Yeah.
Okay, now we've got an aerial of the rest of the little sub-market. What are we looking at? It's just jam up, heaving Metro LA stuff with a gazillion boxes jammed in around roads. You can see a little bit of parking, but every sort of mid-market consumer brand, from Ross to a couple of banks to what else we got on there? Jersey Mike's kind of thing.
In-N-Out, Sprouts.
Yeah, it's all here.
Yeah.
And then some denser multifamily right there.
Yeah, some newer multifamily here.
So you get, and it's the sea of LA, the sort of mid-market LA that we're looking at.
So do you get any bonus points for being on historic Route 66?
I would think 0.
Okay. It's a good marketing play, but I didn't know if you had any bonus points for that.
Okay, what else?
What
else do we know about this joint?
1962. I can't imagine that overhanging second floor commercial would be code compliant today. You got to imagine the insurance provider doesn't love that. So Glendora, I mean, how far is Glendora from LA? Is it like an hour?
Well, it depends on what part, right?
That's true. Yeah. Now in California, it depends on what time it is all the time.
But if you wanted to go to downtown LA from Glendora, you're, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
So Glendora is east of downtown LA. Now, if you wanted to go from Glendora to, let's say, Santa Monica at rush hour, I think that could take you like 3 years.
You're still
better off walking.
Yeah, getting across the 405 is no good.
Let's see what kind of rent things are good.
Yeah, you're 30 miles inland from the coast. You're closer to East LA and Los Angeles.
So is this like heading out to the valley? I don't even know what that means, but I feel like I hear that all the time.
Yeah, valley's going to be more north.
Okay.
But you're 0 for 3, Brett. You want to keep swinging? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to come up the bat in the next inning and try to redeem myself.
Florida man with opinions on California geography.
Just when we thought you couldn't get any dumber, you totally redeem yourself.
All right, so
starting to get a full appreciation of the of how little knowledge is actually imparted from this.
Yeah, I'm in the other
gathering
one.
of idiots.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So, all right, I think it's safe to say this is not a kind of, it's not a trophy market. It's not a trophy deal, but it's interesting and it probably makes some money, but it's going to be, you're talking a weird local operator, right? I mean, Eric, isn't this, I feel like you could accurately describe the enterprising gentleman who ends up owning this place.
Yeah. It could also be, it almost, this property feels like it could also play a role in Big Lebowski.
Right.
Oh yeah.
You could kind of have that. The owner could be wearing a bathrobe.
Right.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Wearing a bathrobe, drinking a White Russian, telling you that the rent's due.
Yeah.
Man.
There's no, I mean, it's basically a strip mall. That's your type of credit tenant. There's no credit tenant here at all. There's nobody. It is a 1 or 2 person tax office. It is a nail salon. It's like
maybe a little filming.
Yep.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. It's, I think, neighborhood services, just things that people who happen to live around there need. I don't know that space well enough to understand what cap rates strip malls should be trading at. But you got to think they have to trade. I mean, even in this part of LA, wouldn't you think you're talking an in-place cap that's north of a 6? I mean, this is a weird, funky tenant profile. I'm sure the apartments are rougher. There's probably a lot of deferred maintenance. You could talk about all the reasons why you wouldn't necessarily want to own it, but it is, I think, in a good location. And I think on a long enough timeline, it continues to go up. I can understand buying this more than the episode we did, the last one, where we talked about build to rent in Colorado. That's like a very clean sort of institutional buy. This one feels super funky. And I think being a really good local hands-on operator, you can probably wring more money out of this than you might expect. That's my uneducated view. Eric, you know this.
I kind of like the idea of going back to being the mediocre operator and just having this for sport and having a bathrobe.
Yeah.
And walking around, kind of keeping the whole thing mid-market. I like the vibes of this place a lot. I feel like it has, first of all, there's got to be a very short, the Venn diagram of people that would buy 2-story office retail connected to residential behind, that's a smaller profile and a smaller, because this deal is probably going to be too big for a lot of individuals.
Yep.
Too quirky and small for institutions. I think I don't know. I think there's something that's like super cool about it, but it would be a long slog trying to keep this thing going. It doesn't strike me as something that has big upside. It's one that you kind of got to keep fixing up and ride the general LA scarcity train for as long as possible. The other thing that I can't even begin to explain is the technicality of renting, of being in the rental game, a residential rental game in Los Angeles. I can't even begin to tell you the regulations, laws, gotchas that can happen around this. And you've got this overhanging thing that the city or state can just decide that you don't have to pay rent. And you're left as a bag holder on something like this for 6 months. So that's always sort of the wild card with Los Angeles rentals.
What I like about the financials here is the actual annual rent is $1.2 million. And the broker's opinion of the annual market rent is $1.5 million, which is basically saying like, just charge more. They're not talking about a value add program. They're not just like seller's dumb and hates money, but these guys will be happy to pay you more rent. It's like, I mean, maybe, but probably not. The rent is probably the rent, like give or take $100. And for people who are listening and want to get their brain around, like imagine you live in Ohio. And first, I'm really sorry if you have to live in Ohio. Like I hope things pick up for you and you get to move. But imagine living in Ohio and you're listening to this stupid podcast. And when I tell you that the studio rent,
angrier and angrier,
the studio rent is $4 a square foot. They're renting a 420 square foot studio for almost $2,000. And this is not like the part of LA that you think of, oh, it's near the beach and lots of beautiful people and it's wonderful. This is a very far outpost of Los Angeles. It is incredibly expensive to live there.
Kind of bleak. Yeah, we had a recent episode in Colorado Springs or Castle Rock, Colorado, the shiny suburb of Colorado Springs, where you could have an attractive 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, townhome style apartment with your own garage for $1,900 a month.
Yeah, it's a totally different animal. It's amazing what people will pay for near perfect weather.
Right. But I think Eric touched on it. It's too funky for the big guys and maybe too big for the small guys. So there's probably a window there for a slightly more sophisticated buyer. And is there like a situation here where maybe like foreign capital comes in and buys this and they're living in one of the, couple of the apartments and then managing the front? I mean, I think that's something. I fouled off my third pitch. We went to video review, so I'm coming back for the fourth pitch there, and you guys can say I officially struck out.
I think that the answer to that question is there's probably no limit to the insane ownership group that buys this next.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a normal buyer. I think it could just be a random deal. Like some guy made a bunch of money selling rugs and then was like, fuck it, I'm moving to the US and I'm going to live in one of these studios.
Yeah.
Boom. Or it could be a local shop who specializes in this kind of thing. I don't know, but I do think it's interesting.
Yeah. All right.
So we're talking about a gross income as it sits of $1.2 million. Is that what we're?
Well, it looks like it's if you just look at this picture I've got on the screen, it looks like the in-place NOI is $770,000. And you're going to take that to
$70,000. So, Brett, let's get a little broker opinion of value. The Brett Moss, Florida man,
sir.
BOV.
The quick back of the napkin
on this property in Los Angeles. What you got?
Well, are we thinking this is like a 6.5 cap?
I would love to say it's a 6.5, but I think I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's a 6.
Okay, so that's going to put this in the $13 million category. Yeah, but it's at just the in place at a 6 cap, it's $12.9 million.
My sense it'd be lower than that.
The cap rate would be lower, the purchase price.
I think the purchase price would be higher.
Yeah.
The amount of money chasing properties in Los Angeles just continues to stagger me. We've done a little bit of business out there over the years and have just it's just been incredible of what you think is the maximum. If you take the maximum price that you would ever pay under any condition for in general for a piece of property, and then round that up and then add 10% to it, and then wad that up and add some more, and then hold your nose and say, if we absolutely had to, we could pay this and then add 10%. You're still getting outbid almost all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a return of capital play for a lot of groups versus a return on capital, right?
Yeah,
So
it's pretty amazing.
Mindset out there as well.
Yeah.
At 12 million, that's $275 a foot. That feels too cheap.
Feels way cheap.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But the only thing that I think might make this within reach of somebody is kind of the size of it. It's a little bit big for the dentist crowd. It's not going to get any institutional attention, and it's got the two. It's office, retail, and residential, and not what you imagine when you think of a Los Angeles mixed use property.
Yeah.
I like it for the vibes. I can't imagine making money at it.
All right. Well, I would need your stamp of approval, Eric, here with the commercial dynamics. So I don't think we're getting the bell out again. So we need to break this streak next week, I think.
Agree.
All right. I think that's a wrap for this week. So we will look forward to picking it up with the group next week and appreciate everybody listening.